Hello and welcome, Inspired Podcast community. This is your new episode. My name is Caroline, and my today's guest is Evan Putman. And I hope I pronounced your name right.
That
No?
was good. That was good. Putman, yes.
Putman. Okay. I'm from Germany. I have a good excuse. I never know how to pronounce names. So forgive me. Thank you for saying yes. And let me introduce you to the audience. You are from South Carolina right now, and I learned you are the founder of the podcast Profit School and a business consultant who partners with visionary, collaborative entrepreneurs with big positive messages and missions to help them create simple, sustainable, leverage client acquisition solutions and cash flow confidence for their business. And this is exciting. And thank you so much. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Oh, well, thank you, first of all, for having me. Grateful for the opportunity. Yeah, so I've been, what I like to say is just for most people, I help business owners and entrepreneurs that have podcasts. I help them turn their podcast into a leads and sales machine for their business so that the podcast can be the engine that drives their business. So I know a lot of podcasters just absolutely love to get their message and mission out there. Maybe they don't love doing social media as much. Maybe they don't want to spend money on paid advertising, but they haven't been able to sort of crack the code on how a podcast can deliver leads and sales for their business and actually be the core of their business. And that's what I help them with. And it comes from experience, not just something I picked up in a book or heard on a podcast, but actually from a podcast and a business that we built, you know, well, now it's probably been like 5 or 6 years ago, but we were able to do it, and then I've been able to replicate it with other clients as well.
Oh, I love the word replicate. It's like duplicate or multiply. I love it. And yeah, you explained it to me. And I love how you emphasize that the podcast can be the core of your business, right? Wow,
Mm.
like a lead magnet as well. We will talk about that later, maybe, because first of all, I want to know what inspires you.
What inspires me daily, or what it
Yes,
was
in
that the
general.
question? Yeah. I think, what inspires me, I would say more than anything, is my daughter. Um, but continuing to be a better human for her.
Oh,
That's my number one goal for her and my wife and our little small family. And, if I can continue to work on that, then that makes me a better human for everybody else as well. So I would say that that's definitely top of the list.
wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. My next question is who inspires you? And I'm certain it is your daughter as well. The question is about also coaches and mentors you had in your life.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's interesting. I was thinking about this today because it's been people I haven't known. Maybe I've read their books, learned things from them. I was thinking about this actually. I don't know if you are familiar with the book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior by Dan Millman, which was a huge sort of turning point in my life when I discovered that book through a conversation that I had with a stranger that was actually, I'm not quite sure if that stranger was actually there, if it was all just something that happened and by divine intervention that pointed me to that book, but it really was something that changed my life in many ways. But there's along the road there's been coaches. I used to coach basketball too, so I had basketball coaches that inspired me. Yeah, I would say too, we're talking about the podcast and the business that I built, and my business partner at the time was a huge inspiration, and he still is. So, yeah, there's been a lot of them, probably too many to mention. I'm a big, huge fan of Wayne Dyer as well. So a lot of people I feel like that came into my life that I never got a chance to meet, but their words and their actions inspired me as well.
Yes. Wow. And the spirit, when you are reading the books, it's between the lines, right? It is
Mm.
there. It's from them. Wow, that is so inspiring. Thank you for sharing. And I was thinking about, you mentioned your business partner. And do you see difficulties in when people decide to have a business partner?
I definitely think it could, it can be. At the time, I started working with him as a contractor. I was actually not a part of the business, and then later on, I became a part of the business when it's too much to go into here, but it was part of sort of me going all in on myself in the business, and I was like, "Hey, I want to be a part of this." But he was someone that was very easy to work with. I think we very much aligned in the way that we show up in the world and how we like to serve others. So, I'm sure there can be, and I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday and hearing a nightmare sort of story around a business partnership. So, I have not experienced that per se, although I've made bad decisions with people that I've worked with before. And it's never been, the only true business partnership I had was actually a really good one. And I think it was because we both sort of respected each other, knew we were going in the same direction, and had the same kind of values.
Yes. And also respect and trust. I think it's
Hmm.
because if one um, tries to control the other one or be superior or something or arrogant, and then it's not gonna work, right? So I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
curious about your experiences in that, because people, when they start their business, they don't know. And of course, it's also related to the podcast. If you have a podcast and you have a, like a, not co-host, but if you are doing this with someone else, then it's a partnership, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you do have to, I think one of the most important things, obviously, is to allow the freedom and the space to that other person. It's like any relationship, right? You have to respect them. You have to have trust. You have to have that level of knowing that, this is something that you're in this journey together. And, I remember my previous business partner, Pat, when it was, he was never, even when I was just the contractor, he never, you know, was sort of a hands-on site type manager. It was more like, hey, I trust you. I know that you can do this. And what was fun in our partnership and in our business was that I learned from him. One of the reasons why I said he was almost like a mentor and someone who inspired me was I learned from him that it's okay to just do things and get a result, and then you get to attach the meaning to that result, right? So maybe it didn't deliver the what you hoped it would do, but whereas in the past I would have called it a failure and probably beat myself up for it, it was more like, no, that's okay. We learned something. Now we just take that and go do something else. And if it was really bad, we don't do it again, right? So I think there's one of my other mentors and coaches shared one time that there's profit in all labor, right?
Hmm.
So if you look at it from the right perspective, you get to choose what you're learning, right? You're always iterating, always growing, always expanding, always sort of moving forward. If you do something, you're going to get a result. So one way or the other, you're getting a result. You might as
Mhm.
well put the name on it and the definition that you want to.
Yes. You get a result, you get to choose which meaning, which label you give, and then you move from there, you pivot and you learn. This is when you look at your results. When they
Mm.
change, this is where the learning happens. And I love that so much what you said. And my next question is, how do you inspire other people?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one thing that I've heard from other people is that I tend to put people at ease. I tend to make them feel safe and comfortable. And also, I tend to be someone who instills a lot of belief in them, right? So I do a lot of coaching and consulting. And one of the biggest things that I see, and I've had this aha before, is like if you can just get people to believe in themselves, then they can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. They don't really need the step by step from me generally. They just need someone to let them sort of reflect the belief I have in them for themselves. So I think that's that to me, I would say that's one of the things that I hope that I inspire in others, and that I show up to serve without any intention of any expectation of anything else, just to serve and to give. And that's what I've heard from others, at least that they've shared with me. So, and I appreciate that from them.
Wow, I love what you said about encouraging others or planting the belief if they have the belief in themselves. And of course, they can borrow your belief in them if they don't have the
Mm,
belief for themselves until the belief is created. And I love this. If this is the only requirement, and it is, it's about, yeah, confidence as well, self-confidence. Wow. Okay, my next question is, what are your gifts and talents?
um, I think once again, it's just
Mhm.
knowing, what I would say, being able to help people believe in themselves is one. One of my this was a good one. One of my mentors actually told me, she's like, Evans, you're really good at helping people make money. So that's always a good talent to have, right? And I think for me, one of the biggest talents I have is just sort of seeing everybody as equal and making everybody feel, no matter who's in the room, making everybody feel that they can come together and be a part of something. So that along with just helping people shine their light in the world, and that's really one of the reasons why I love podcasting, is because it is a way that you can, I believe everybody has something that they were brought here to share with others. And even if it's just one person out there that hears your message and it changes their life, then you've created those ripple effects in the world. So um, that's something that I just truly enjoy doing and truly helping people with.
Wow. Yes, I see this, and I loved your analogy with entering a room and making people feel included. I would translate this that way. Be
Mm.
the reason why people feel included or being a part of something. You said this. This is amazing. Yes, I was thinking about it 2 years ago about, yeah, or making feel the other person as most important person if by giving you
Mm.
attention, the focus, your attention, you are present there, and then no one, you are not distracted. This is a gift. Yes. Talked about gifts and
Yeah.
talents. This is why I ask. It's, we are given gifts and talents by birth, and then it is our task to share it with the world. Yes.
Mhm.
Wow. You want to add? You wanted to something?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think that's a definite good point, because if I think one of the worst things we can do is regret not sharing that talent with the world. Um, and you can tell, like, when, I know when I sort of, maybe I'm not having the best day, or I'm not showing up the way I need to, it tends to like lower my energy, and I can feel it. Right. So I think those gifts that we have, they're meant to be shared, right? They're not meant to be kept wrapped up under the tree or on the table, right? They're meant to be opened up and shared with others.
Yes. And when you, yeah, you said about a bad day, then you have the impulse to help other people and you don't do it, then you missed something. You could have
And
helped and you didn't do it. So wow. And at the
yeah,
evening you feel bad. You
and
beat
I think,
yourself up.
well, you tell me this too, is I believe if you are having a bad day, what's one of the best ways to start having a good day is to actually help somebody else, right? Serve someone else, and that can bring you right out of that sort of bad lower energy.
I talked to a dear friend of mine a couple of months ago, and his secret is, he says, whenever I feel bad, in a bad mood or so, I go live. It's like doing a podcast or so. He's going live on social media,
Mm-hmm.
and then immediately there are people he can help with his message. I love that so much. You said the same now. Yeah. Wow. Okay, I have one last question for you. So when
Hmm.
people reach out to you after listening to this episode, do you have special offers and services for the Inspire podcast community?
Oh, absolutely. If they, I'll, if it's okay, I'll share a URL. I have a nice video training that's free for them. It's, one thing I'll share this, that this is what I call our listeners to leads formula. It's something that changed when I look back at the success of our business. The we had the business and the podcast selling real estate sales training and coaching, that it wasn't the big audience, it wasn't getting the sales. What really changed things is when we focused on a relationship driven lead generation process, like building a real relationship with our listeners, with our treating them like humans, not just like a lead, right? So, what I'd love to do is share with your listeners that if they'll go to listeners to leads live.com, that's listeners to leads live.com /video, they can get access to that free video and watch that interview where I break down the entire system for them.
Wow, thank you so much. I will rewatch it. I know I had the link because we talked before. Yes, we had a great conversation. Thank you so much. And do you have a last message to the audience?
Just I would share, going back to what we were talking about, like share your gifts to the world, right? And, everything that you do to put your talents and your gifts out to the world creates a positive ripple effect and creates more impact on the lives of others. And I think leading from a place of service, what I've discovered over the years is the absolute best way to grow any business and a great way to live as well.
Wow, thank you so much. Yes, and see you in the next episode.